I suck at sales. I used to run an agency, and as soon as I got someone else to take over the sales, we went like this. But I wanted to see if I could build something, an AI sales trainer, a role play assistant that could have helped my previous self become a better salesperson, more confident, and win more deals. So I built this. So this is the AI sales trainer that I've built. And as you can see, first thing to do is upload a document. So either information about your product, about your service, or a proposal. In this case, I've already uploaded a website proposal. We're going to be pretending to sell a website. Now we're going to say what we want to get out of this session, what we want to focus upon. I'm going to say, I want to focus upon handling pricing objections. Then the gender, we're going to select male, and compliance, we're going to say, relatively in the middle. And then we're going to start the session. It's going to ask if we're ready, and then it's going to get started.
Hello, are you ready to start?
Yes.
Great, I've had a chance to review the proposal, and I have some thoughts. I understand the value of a well-designed website, but I'm a bit concerned about the total cost of $5,800. It feels a bit higher than I anticipated. Can you elaborate on why this investment is justified?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to confirm, is your worrying coming from the cash flow effects that's having your business, so paying that cost in one go, or more so from the value that the website will provide to your business?
I'd say it's a bit of both.
Yeah. Okay.
While I see the potential value of a modern website, the upfront cost is still significant for my budget. I'm trying to weigh whether the return on investment aligns with that initial expenditure.
Absolutely, very valid concern. So what I can say is that first of all, we bill 50% upfront, and then 50% when you're completely happy with it and just before the site's ready to go live. So it's not going to be all at one time. Generally, our build cycles are between 6 weeks and 12 weeks. So there'll be at least 6 weeks between those different payments on the cash flow side of things. And on the value side of things, we're not cheap. But what we do is build a website which is specifically geared towards generating you more sales and more leads. And what I'll do is I'll send you over a list of all of our case studies. And if you perform, in the worst 25% of our websites, you'll still be getting very positive ROI from implementing one of our sites, which is geared towards sales and marketing. You could go out and find another agency that will do it for $2,000, and it's going to look nice, but actually what you're paying for is not the look of it, but actually the results that you're going to get from the website. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. I appreciate the breakdown of the payment structure.
Okay, we're going to pause it there, just because we don't want to run a big sales conversation here. So it's going to process this sales conversation here. And then you can see in the previous sessions, we've got down here, we can listen to the recordings.
Hello, are you ready?
Listen to it back. There we go. Beautiful. And we can see the transcript if we want to, but what's the really important thing is we can have a look at the feedback. So this is where we've given AI a few prompts and say, have a look at the transcript and give us a few ideas based upon what you heard. So it said, clarify and empathize more explicitly with the prospect's budget. Yep, very valid. When addressing ROI, quantify more concretely than very positive. Yep, very valid. Instead of comparing to a cheaper agency only on aesthetics, pivot to emphasize unique benefits. Okay, so some valid points here. And the great thing is I can go and I can run this again and again and again, and I can actually get used to saying these set pieces. And when I'm in front of real client, or when I was in front of real clients selling them a website, I would become much more confident, much more relaxed when handling those objections. So let's have a little look at how it works. So I'm using 2, 3, maybe 4 tools for this. I'm using Bubble.io to build the front end. This is the no-code builder, which I really like to use. I'm using Vapi for the voice side of things and the AI side of things. I'm using OpenAI in order to look at the transcript and give me advice back upon how I could improve. And then I'm also using this plugin within Bubble, which makes it much, much easier, which I'll show you now. So I am within Bubble here. And if we go to plugins, I'm using this one called Vapi.ai. Vapi, let me show you it here. Very, very cool tool. It allows you to use AI in phone calls. So AI can make phone calls, it can receive phone calls, but it can also do web calls, which we're doing here. So we're not using any phones, we're just using web, as I showed you. And this plugin here, Vapi Speech AI, who's it by? Martech Studios, really cool, and makes it much, much easier for you to have that web conversation with Vapi. All you need to do is drop in the API keys. Let's have a look at Vapi first. When you sign into Vapi and come to the dashboard, this is what you'll see. You'll see a number of different things you can do. I am not going to go through all of the things you can do with Vapi. It has got some quite cool features, which they're always adding to. However, I'm just going to be looking at the assistants in this video. So we can see this is the assistant that we're going to be using in this video, the roleplay test. And every single time that I am using the sales trainer, we are using this one assistant, and we are simply updating the prompt. So within Vapi, it's really cool. You can see how much you're going to pay per minute. So in this case, I'm going to pay 9 cents per minute, and you can see the latency. And what's really nice is you can play around with the different models that you're using in order to bring the cost up and down and the latency up and down. So you can see with the cost, 5 cents always goes to Vapi, as that's their cost. We are then spending 1 cent per minute with the transcriber, which is DeepGram. We are then spending 1 cent with GPT-4o Mini, and we are spending 2 cents or 2.2 cents with Vapi for their text-to-speech. But we can change that. If we go over here and go to the model, and we can change the provider if we want to, you can see they've got a load here, but I'm going to go to model. Let's say we want to make it amazing. Let's go GPT 4.5 preview. And as you can see, that's going to make it much, much more expensive. Also, it's going to make it slower as well. And actually, I don't think it'll be that much better. GPT-4o Mini actually provides really good results, and it's relatively cheap. You can then change the transcriber. We're using DeepGram, that's fine. One thing that I would suggest doing is not using Vapi. I am in this example using Vapi, but my favorite one is actually 11 Labs. 11 Labs gives really, really good voices. The one which I just showed you is okay, but 11 Labs is really good at the moment. OpenAI is getting there, but 11 Labs is still my favorite. And you can see, depending on what we do, we can change the latency as well. If you really want something that is very quick and it's got low latency, you can change the model, change the voice, and that'll bring the latency down. So what we can also see here is the first message. So every single time that we start this, it's going to say, hello, are you ready to start? You could get rid of this so you don't have that. I like to have it in there. And then the system prompt is the really important part of this. So essentially what we're doing, which I'll show you with the API call in just a second, is all of this information that we've got here. So all of the information that's in this PDF, the information upon what we want to focus upon, the gender, actually not this one, this isn't passed into here, but the compliance is, all of that information minus the gender is passed into this system prompt here. So we can see this prompt, if I open it up, it says pretend that you're a prospect, and then it says here's the information about the proposal, website proposal, and then it drops in all of the text from that PDF, which is the website proposal, and it ends there. And then it says this is what the salesperson wants to get out of this call and what you should focus upon. And then it says I want to focus upon handling price objections, and that is obviously the text that we entered into this part here. And then we've got a little bit at the end about the compliance and how easy or how hard it should be to persuade this person, and then a little bit extra to just try and make it work the way we want it to work. And we've got 2 API calls with Vapi. One of them is to change this prompt every single time that we run it. Obviously, we might change what proposal we want to put into it. We might change what we want to focus upon or the compliance. So every single time we run it, we want to update this prompt for this assistant, because we are always using this assistant every single time that we run it. So let's have a look at that API call. So let's come back over to Bubble. This is not a full tutorial of Bubble. There are lots of videos out there, some that I've made about Bubble and how you can do different things with it. This is more of a high-level overview. So if you don't want to use Bubble, you can still see how everything pieces together. So within Bubble, we have got our APIs, and within Vapi, you can ignore this one here. We've got 2. We have got add context to assistant, which is what I was just talking about. That's what is going to be changing that system prompt or the context that's given to the assistant to tell it how it should behave. And then we are getting the call information after the call. So let's have a look at this one. So it's relatively simple. All that we're doing is passing in the assistant ID. Again, we're always using the same assistant, so it's always the same assistant ID. We've got an auth token. And then what we're doing is just passing in context here. And this is left open at this stage. I'll show you in just a second where we're passing that information in from. We're also passing in the voice name, and this comes from this part here. So this is an option set within Bubble, and essentially whenever it's male, we're going to be passing through, if I go over here, Elliot is going to be the name that we're passing through in the API call. You can see here, we've got Elliot. And whenever it is female, it's going to be passing through, I believe it's Hannah, but you could very easily set it up as any of these that you want to. And if you're using something like 11 Labs, then you're gonna have to change it slightly, but essentially the same thing. So we're passing through the context and also the voice ID. And also we are passing in the model here, but we're always keeping the model the same. So let's look at how we're using this API within the actual flow. So if we have a look at the canvas, when we click Start Session, this is going to open a pop-up, do a few things on the front end, and then it's going to call this API here. And we can see that being passed into that, as we just talked about, is the ID or the name of the voice. So either Elliot or I think it was Hannah. And then the context, this is where we get the information from these inputs here. So we are, and you can see this is the same information that we were looking at over here, exactly the same. So we are saying this is the information from the document, from the selected document field here. We are passing that in here. We are then saying this is what the salesperson wants to focus upon, and we are taking the input from this input here. And then we are saying on a scale of 1 to 10, this is the compliance level, and it's coming from this slider, which is this slider here. So you can see there, that is how we are using these inputs to pass into the API, and then how the API uses them within Vapi to actually create that voice agent. Now, to do this and start this call, which is the next step, we are just using that plugin to initiate the call. And all we have to do on that element, if I find it, it's in the pop-up, all we have to do is put in the ID of the assistant within the assistant ID, and then this plugin is just going to handle everything else. We don't need to do anything in terms of sending messages back and forth or to do with interruptions. Vapi handles all of that, and then this plugin works so that we can speak to it via the web. So we're going to have our conversation, and then we're going to end the conversation. Let's have a look what happens when we click end. So a few things happen on the front end. We tell Vapi to end the call. We create a new session. So a session is a data object that we've created within Bubble, and it's got a few different fields here. So it's got our feedback. It's got the ID of the call within Vapi, so Vapi's ID of it. It's got the recording of the file, so we can listen to the recording back. It's got a summary. It's got a title of the call and the transcript as well. So we are creating a new one of those sessions. And then what we are doing here is we are using an API connected to OpenAI, a GPT 4.1 mini. You could pretty much use whatever model that you want. And we are saying, let's have a look at the API first, actually. It's just a completely open API, which means that I'm not putting in any information actually in the call. I'm leaving that all down to the parameters. So you can see here, just a very basic call to OpenAI and GPT 4.1 mini. And then when I'm calling this API, I am passing in, let's have a look, a little bit of prompt engineering. So within the system prompt or the context, whatever you want to call it, you're saying essentially, you're a master sales trainer. Please take this transcript and provide sales feedback that could help the sale go better, increase the chance of conversion, etc., etc. I'm telling it you will also be given information about the products or services that are being pitched. Give us between 3 and 5 bullet points, a bit of prompt engineering just to ask it to give us good feedback. And then what we're passing in as the user prompt or the user input is firstly the document. So we need to tell it about what we're trying to sell in order for it to give us proper feedback. We're then telling it what we're trying to work upon. So in our situation, we're trying to work upon handling price objections. So the feedback is going to be relevant to that. And then we're passing in the transcript so that OpenAI can actually see what we talked about and therefore give us good information. And one important thing which made it much better was when relevant, include quotes. So saying, don't say this, instead say this, or where you said this, you could have improved it by saying this. So there's a lot you could do on the prompt engineering side to actually make it much, much better. What I've created is fairly quick and simple. There's a lot of iterative work that you could do to trial and error, make it better over time. So we are getting the feedback from OpenAI once we have passed in all the information. We are then using the same API call because it's completely open, but no information within that API call itself. And we are using it again to simply get a title for the session. So this title here, this is produced by AI, and we just pass in, what are we passing in? Yeah, we're passing in the name of the document and what we're trying to work upon. And that's going to produce us this title here, price objections from here, and website proposal from here. We just use OpenAI to do that. So then what we're doing is we are getting some information from the Vapi call via an API. Let's have a look at that API. This is the second API that I mentioned to Vapi. And what we're doing here is, if we open it up, get call information, we are passing in the call ID, which we can get from the element, the Vapi element. Let's have a look at that. Here we go. Within this session, when we're creating it, we are passing in the ID from this element here, which is really nice that it's stored on that element. And then within the API call, we are passing in that call ID. And then essentially it's going to give us all of the information back. So let's have a look at that. It's going to give us the call ID, the assistant ID, the type, so web call or phone call, when it was started, when it ended, the transcript, recording, etc., etc. It gives us a load of information there also about the cost, which is nice. So then in the workflow, we are using that information. We are saving the MP3. So one of the things it comes back with is a recording URL, so we can actually listen to it. And we are then downloading that and storing that within Bubble because we want to have it on our own servers rather than on Vapi servers. And then we are making some changes to the session from all of those API calls that we've just done. So we are updating the AI feedback of the session from this call here. We are updating the title from this call here. The summary, which isn't actually working at the moment, annoyingly, with Vapi, but that's when we could create an AI summary. We can do this manually just by taking the transcript and asking for it, but I haven't done that. And then the recording from when we saved it as well is going to be saved to this session. And that's essentially it. All we are doing then is within Bubble, we've got a repeating group down here for the previous sessions. And the repeating group, as we can see here, is going to show the title. It's going to give us the recording. It's going to give us the date. It's going to give us a little drop down for the feedback. And all of the feedback is going to be within that drop down. And we're going to be able to see the transcript and a little pop-up as well. Again, this is not a tutorial about Bubble and how you can do all this sort of stuff. If you do want to know more about Bubble and how you can actually implement this yourself, or if you're trying to implement it and you're running it up against any issues on the API side of things or the Bubble side or whatever tool you're using, then you can come over and join the community. It's a free community where I help people out with implementing AI within their business. But this is the overview of how this all works. As you can see, this is a very basic example. There's a lot more that you could do here. You could, one of the biggest things would be using a custom trained model based upon your own data, based upon your own sales calls, in order to say, this is the sort of feedback that you should be giving. That would dramatically increase the results and the feedback that you get from this. You could also do things such as tell it more about your business, so that when you are handling certain objections, let's say your business is positioned in one way where you can offer something that no one else does, so that when a prospect is saying, oh, what about this? You can actually produce something and say something which is relevant only to your business and really makes you stand out. So essentially you can target it or tailor it much more towards your business. You could also not just use this for sales, but you could use this for customer service or any sort of interaction, negotiation, or even team management, within the business. Any sort of role play you could essentially use this for. And even though the feedback at the moment is not particularly strong, it's good, but it's not particularly strong. One thing that really helps is just that role play, being able to speak in a scenario that is like a real scenario, but there is no pressure, there's no stakes. It doesn't matter if you mess up and say and get it wrong or say a wrong thing. Just being able to get those repetitions in of, okay, when they say this, then I can ask this question, or I can bring up this point or this point about the product or service. That's also really powerful. So hopefully you found this useful, me showing off a little bit of this AI sales trainer. If you have any questions, then do come over to the community and ask them there, or you can leave a comment down below. If you've liked this video, it would be fantastic if you could give it a thumbs up. And of course, if you want to see more videos like this to do with AI, about how to implement AI within your business in order to make it more profitable and more efficient, then please do subscribe for more videos. Anyway, that is it from me. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.